Hey everybody, so earlier today I did this little doodle in my sketchbook while I was on a Saturday morning Zoom meeting, and I thought it'd be fun to just show you guys how a lot of times I'll just do a sketch like this while I'm in a meeting. This is just done with a zebra mechanical pencil. I've just been liking doodling with this lately, just kind of got a nice light touch. And then a lot of times I'll come back to a sketch like this. It's an okay sketch. There's nothing really great going on with it. It's just kind of like a generic design. But sometimes then I'll just flip this paper over here and start working on an alternative design just on the same perspective. It's like I got the perspective already worked out on that flip side, right? But the design is just kind of like meh. So why waste the layout, the perspective? So I'll throw down another idea, maybe see if it's a little bit more unique. So on the front side I use that zebra mechanical pencil, but on this side I'm just using a Bic stick. This one's I got from participating in the Middlecott sketch battle experiment at SEMA a couple years back when we still went places. So I'm just gonna start just kind of overlaying that design, fixing some of the proportions. The cab is maybe shifted a little bit too much this way in the original sketch, so making that a little bit more balanced. One thing about the original sketch too, the body here is a little scrunched. The overhang probably should be a little bit longer, and that front air dam gotta come down a little bit lower. Just make it feel a little bit more realistic, a little more planted on the ground there. And I really like to do this. I like to kind of almost get the silhouette of the whole sketch kind of sketched in right away. Just gives me, I want to think about the whole design. I don't want to just start with the grill or a light or something and realize the overall shape isn't where you want it. So I think this original graphic down here is kind of interesting. It's just somewhat generically applied and maybe a little overly wide. Now that I've got this kind of lower air dam here, just starting to feel a little bit more natural. I think how it had this little bit of a chamfer in the top edge here. That made a little bit of this almost peaked nose. I see that as kind of coming forward a little bit. And then everything down here is coming out slightly. And then maybe we just got a little bit of a return at the bottom there. And maybe that return kind of wraps up. Get a little bit of a little surface development there. So that would kind of be a little bit proud on the other side. You kind of mimic that. On the other sketch, I kind of had this sweeping line heading up, but maybe I'm just going to mimic this a little bit. Just get that little bit of a surface development there. And then maybe that's actually a little bit of a witness line around the wheel well. Okay. So that's starting to be something. And I like this idea of these almost like plugged up air ducts here for the brakes. You know, most of those brake inlets for so many cars are fake. So I think it'd be fun to kind of just make the inlet actually the perimeter. And then there's this little panel that's floating there. And then maybe instead of resolving like this with that peak, we just kind of does something like that and becomes a nice little reference area for the bottom of the headlamp there. Okay, I'm going to telegraph that onto the other side here. Yeah, it's starting to be something. Our hood line's a little bit sunk down, so the section through here is doing something like this. And then I think we need to do something a little bit more interesting with our greenhouse. That's just a little bit stock, as I like to say sometimes. What if our A pillar actually came back in the reverse direction, kind of like in a 1950s style? Like if you think about early 1950s Corvettes, those A pillars were almost going backwards and maybe almost vertical. So then you had the glass was essentially wrapping around. You know, the form went like this, but the A pillar went back like that. I think that would make something a little bit more interesting. And then maybe our B pillar does something similar. So they almost have this, like, in the side view, almost a mirror image there in the pillars, but maybe this one's a little bit thicker just to denote that it's in the back. Make that door line come forward a little bit. What should we do with the glass there? Let's see, let's radius this a little. Trying to think, do I want the glass to come down over here, or do I want it to actually come up over? Let's have it come up over. That's interesting. Bottom of this glass. Just gonna give it a little bit of a jog here. Maybe a little bit of an area for some kind of a door opener. Start to think about just a little bit of a tire thickness there. nice thick 5-spoke wheel. Add a little bit of thickness on those spokes. Starting to be something. Throw a little bit of shadow down there. See, look at the other side of that A-pillar coming around. Other side of that glass here. Okay. Okay, let's see. We're gonna do something going on in these headlights here. Something like that going on the inside. Now that I start to know kind of what's going on with this thing, I start putting in some heavier lines. Darkening the interior. Notice how I'm doing that hatching overall, it's kind of going with the shape of the windshield, right? So I'm darkening down the interior, but I'm also showing the form. I'm just gonna pull out a little bit of a heavier pen here. I think one of the things about sketching is you gotta know yourself, right? Like I know I'm a little bit of a light presser, so I know I always need to get some heavier pens when I want to darken things in. That's why I draw with a Sharpie so much. But you don't want to do that too early. You want to keep your construction lines nice and light, and then just come back when you're ready, you know, when you feel confident in the sketch. So this is like an all-glass roof up here. The glass just kind of flows down around like that. Lots of visibility, like a cockpit of some kind. But you'll notice if you look back and cars from the 50s and 60s, they have a lot of these very, very narrow pillars like this because they didn't have the crash standards that we have today. But maybe there's some kind of a new material that's stronger that could make for that nice thin pillar again. Because the nice thing about those thin pillars is you get so much visibility. If you're ever in one of those vintage cars, it feels like you're in a giant greenhouse. You can just see everything. Get that darker pen again, just bottom line. You always want to get your outer lines nice and dark, and especially the lower perimeter lines. It's going to add a little bit of weight to the bottom. Now they got that in there. Get the shadow in. No cheat way to do this. It just takes patience. It takes practice so that you can do that line over and over again consistently. And I generally kind of go dark to light, so I'll kind of press harder over here, and as I move over to here, just kind of like press lighter and lighter and lighter. And in that way you get a little bit of a gradation to it. And it might take a couple times to do that, get that gradation exactly where I want it. Yeah, okay. Part of the fun of these loose ballpoint sketches is just being kind of abstract. Like, you notice I'm not really like completing that, I'm just letting you kind of complete it in your mind. But I'm completing enough of it. That weird little balance. Notice how light I can get with that ballpoint. Go really shade, basically. That's what I love about these super cheap Bics. I don't know if they intended that when they made them, but just the way that the tips work. Faster you kind of go, faster and lighter you go, the more of a kind of this gradation you get. Also kind of like put it down on its side a little bit. Notice how kind of low I'm keeping the angle. And I feel like that helps a little bit too. This lower lip a little nicer. I'm thinking this is a little bit grayed out, these And then let's see, let me get a little bit lazy and Sharpie this inlet in here. Ooh, that's dull. On the same on the headlamp here. Yeah, okay. We need a badge on this thing. It's a lotus. It's that triangular badge. Start adding a little bit of definition of the hood here. Shading with the form. So it's really just kind of taking that center line and dragging it out into some shading basically. I'm not showing the light coming from this way, so this side of that wheelhouse there is in shadow. This side is sticking up, catching the light. Tint maybe on that window. And it's really kind of how I build up the sketch. It's like, you know, I started with just that overall outline and then just keep building it. Show the form here. That's kind of wrapping down. It's kind of chiseling back in space a little bit. Okay. Still a little bit of a generic car, but it's a little better than where we were when we started. Again, thinking the light's kind of coming from this way, so I'm just gonna leave this whole part of the windshield just paper so that it'd be like as if a harsh reflection is happening there. And just hit everything else around that with a little bit of shadow. And that kind of mirrors what's going on here. Okay, now we need some way to like get the hood open on this thing. Maybe there's a line that comes through the headlight part line. Dips down a little bit here. Goes across. Coming back in, darkening things up again. What's going on here? The form's doing that a little bit there. Before it kind of turns itself up. So I guess you'd almost have a little bit of a, probably some kind of a form shift here. Yeah, something like that probably. Pull that up just a little bit. Crispy. This is kind of the leading edge of the sketch. So I'm gonna put a little bit of emphasis on that. I always like it when my lines are a little bit almost calligraphic. You know, get a little thick, thick to thin, dark to light. These kinds of things adds a little bit of visual interest to a sketch. want to show that those wheels are pulled out just a little bit from this chin, from this shoulder line here. Darken this shadow in just a little bit towards this front corner. Kind of want this front area to be the area of the highest contrast. It's like forcing the focus on a photograph. You know, you want your attention to be in a certain area. And you can do the same thing with contrast in a sketch. Contrast and detail. Fading that out. Come back in with the darker pen. Make sure I get that right in there. This headlight's a little bit bigger. That is a little bit better than when we were the original. So again, just want to look at that original again. A little Sharpie on it now, but you know, so kind of nice, but a little generic, a little out of proportion out here in the back. A little bit more in proportion here. Something a little bit more interesting going on with these pillars. I feel like I might need something over here, but the perspective makes it a little hard to explore that. Maybe I want to add in just like a little bit of a lower window down here. When I was in design school in the 90s, for some reason, we always put these lower door windows in. Professors would always ask us why, and always like, oh, it's easier for parking. If you're parallel parking, you can see where the curb is. I think it was just an excuse to add an interesting detail. But of course, now the Bronco has that, which is pretty cool. I don't know if I've ever really seen that in a production vehicle before. It's been in a lot of concept cars. I guess it would make sense if you're going off-roading and you're doing all this rock crawling. You probably want to be able to see out there. You want to see how much clearance you have. I mean, certainly, whoops, I accidentally penned my own drawing there, but that's okay, it happens. But certainly Jeeps have had that open door thing forever, and I'm sure that's been nice when you're off-roading. Not really showing a lot of air intakes or anything on this car. Maybe this is an EV and you don't need a lot of air coming in, and it certainly would make sense. It doesn't really seem like front or rear engine is kind of balanced. Which also also makes sense if you just have a couple of small electric motors and stuffing batteries wherever you can. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up and get some, so I can get some white on this. Use one of these Uniball Posca white pens. Let's see if we get this going here. Yep, a little too much. Always test it out. You'll be happy that you did, so you don't get that on your sketch. Just handling a little bit of these reflections in here. Clean up the wheel a little bit. The light. Not gonna do too much. You don't need too much of this. Just want to pop it out a little bit. Might help if I got that in there so you can see what I was doing. So just adding it a little bit on some of these upturned surfaces that are kind of the closest to us, really facing us. Maybe a little bit here, maybe. Yeah. Cool, yeah, that adds a little bit of something. Starts to make it pop a little bit more. Gonna go in and touch that up a little. Oh, got my hand in it. All right. Yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go on this guy. Thanks for following along. So again, for those of you just joining, this was the original pencil sketch from that I did on a Zoom meeting this morning. And then, oh, got a little white on there, but that's okay. This is the ballpoint sketch on the other side. Touch that back up. It's okay. It's just paper, guys. It's just a sketch. You can mess them up. Got lots more pages to fill up when you screw them up. All right, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Hope you had fun.